So again, thanks for joining today, the tFLOW webinar, today July 15th. So what I want to do is just a short presentation here to explain what tFLOW is, what it was made for, and what issues that we want to address with the system. And then I'll go ahead and jump into the software itself to go through some different cases and the key points that we wanted to address. The idea for today is not to give a comprehensive overview of everything tFLOW does or be some sort of a training session. That would be impossible in 20 minutes. We just want to focus on 4 or 5 of the key points, and definitely not an exhaustive analysis either of some of the key points of how tFLOW will change your workflow. So essentially what we've seen is these are your challenges. So very few companies aren't facing these two difficult challenges at the same time. So on the one side, I'm sure you're required to have faster delivery times, faster turnaround times, and at the same time requesting lower cost or having to meet lower costs to be competitive. So the question is always, how do you get faster without adding headcount or overhead to your processes, which will increase your cost? So, what many companies are looking at today, of course, is automation. So the idea of the automation is that you have files coming in, you can process these automatically and get your product out and ship. So that's the goal everyone wants to achieve. The problem, of course, is at what cost? If the problem is that the automation system that you're looking at is more expensive than hiring somebody, then you haven't really made much progress. So value cost discussions aside, we can touch that point on a later date. Let's just focus also on another point, which is what points of the workflow are systems really addressing. So if you talk to most companies today and ask where their pain points are, most of them will identify somewhere in the upstream. So very few people will say, I'm having a problem getting my cut paths to be defined correctly, or things like that in the what we call the back end side, which involves the printing and finishing. Those type of workflows work great for the most part, and these processes are actually fairly automated. The challenge is getting the file from when it's coming in from the customer through this whole front end process, through the pre-press, through project management, and into these back end processes so they can then go ahead and take care of their job. So these are the red flag points. So if you talk to people, you'll get stories like missing fonts, wrong sizes, all these different things that are going on here at the front end, not so much the back end. So if you spend tens of thousands of dollars on the back end, you still might not address the initial problem, which is getting the files from the customer to that back end quickly and efficiently. So the question is this your workflow? Is this how you work today? And most people answer yes. So the whole process is a manual process of people emailing. Essentially, email has become the project management platform of everybody. So people spend their time emailing back and forth, talking to people, getting up, walking around, trying to figure out where things are. And this is taking up precious time and resources. So in the past, companies could get away with this to a certain point because the printers were the bottleneck. Now with printers getting faster and faster and the turnaround times being requested to be quicker, this is no longer viable. And so we need to get those files from the customer to the production more quickly. So this process can't be maintained forever. So that's what tFLOW was made to address, was this mess that we have here. We call it a mess with regards to the project management and what we call the front end part of the workflow. So how does this happen, or how is this created? So essentially, most companies work something like this diagram today, where we have a series of files coming in from some sort of an FTP or Dropbox or some other similar type of arrangement. CSRs will probably be also depositing things in via email that they may have received from customers, same with sales. And so all of these people are pushing their things into the pre-press department, as well as anything, of course, that goes wrong in production also comes back into pre-press. So pre-press has to deal with this very, very long task list of manual things that they need to check on. So what's going on at this point then is they're spending their time emailing everybody back and forth, giving them status updates on all these things that they're manually checking. So what we're doing with tFLOW is essentially putting in processes that are going to automate a large part of that. And so what we can do with tFLOW is we provide a way for customers to upload jobs, also a form that can be done through that way. We connect to web-to-print storefronts, to MIS systems, to web forms. Also, the CSRs and sales can upload things directly to here, so they don't need to give things to pre-press all the time. Pre-press themselves can deposit things in here. So you essentially have a 24/7 automation system, which is going to be handling those files and giving real-time feedback. So not only on the one side are some percentage of files going to go all the way through the workflow from the entry into production automatically with never being touched by somebody, which is already a huge step forward. But the second part is this feedback is immediate. So once the file is uploaded, that feedback is going to happen within a minute or two, and not 2 hours or 4 hours or half a day later when prepress has time to look at them. So it's a major difference in workflow and speed, and also in terms of operator time. So let's go ahead and see just how tFLOW deals with some of the key points. So again, tFLOW is a lot more than this short list we have here, but I just wanted to focus today on these main points. How we deal with file reception, what automated pre-flagging and proofing does. So of course, many companies have pre-flagging and proofing, but let's take a look at how we approach these 2 points. And collaboration. And again, online collaboration, not collaboration by emailing files back and forth all day, and automated prepress, and then connection to backend systems. So let's go ahead and take these point by point here. I'm going to go ahead and exit out, and let's go ahead and start with file reception. So with file reception, I'm going to go ahead and now bring over tFLOW. So with file reception, we've tried to address the different types of workflows that people are using. So rather than force everybody to have to fit into one particular way, we tried to give as many options as possible so that you can work with different customers in different ways. So one of them that we've done in here is we provide a form. So here's what we call the anonymous upload form, where essentially a customer can just take a file, drop it into the form here, enter in a few fields, choose from a product type, and upload the file. So the object of this is for those customers that would have normally have submitted things to you through some kind of a link on your website that is just an FTP that's just dumping files into a folder somewhere. By doing it this way, you're getting the value of tFLOW by bringing that file in, immediately pre-flagging it, checking it, sending out the alerts to your team that a file has come in, you know who it's from, you have their email address. So this is, again, starting the automation process, but at this point with a customer that you still haven't met yet. So you can just use this in an anonymous way, or also with existing customers without them needing to log in. So another way is to directly drop things into tFLOW. So let's just take an example here, show you a few different ways. So let's say the simplest way is if I have an order already created. Let's say that my MIS or web to print system already created one for me. I could go ahead and have the order already prepared, waiting for the file. And again, who drops it in is up to you, whether that's going to be somebody from your prepress department, whether it's going to be the salesperson, whether you want the customer to upload. They all can do that because it's not a very difficult process to drop a file into the window like I'm doing here. So this would be if you have an order already pre-created. Let me just show you an example now as soon as this is finished with a job pre-created within the order. So you can see here this is already starting the processing. And we'll see in just a few minutes how that makes such a difference to the workflow. So if we look at here, go ahead and do the same thing in the billboard one. And you see in here we already have a job waiting for artwork. So we can go ahead and let's take that same file, in this case, just drop it right into the waiting job. This will already have all the parameters of that job set up for me. So I can go ahead and just drop it in here. And that brings, again, the file in, and we'll start processing as soon as the upload is complete. And then once this is done, I'll show you as well how we can do that with creating the order from scratch. So again, this is also processing. Let me go back over to the initial one that I showed you before, which was the banner. And let's say if I want to add in an additional file into this one, I can go ahead and take a banner and just drop it in here like that. So I can add additional jobs in here also. Or if I need to start from scratch, let me just do one more. I want to show you a couple other, we're going to be seeing these later with the proofs that are being generated. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put in a table throw. And for conventional printing, a couple of examples of brochure. There we go. And of course, one more for business cards. So we should have that here somewhere, business card. Okay, so if I don't have anything created at all, I can still just go in here and say new order. It's not a complex process. So at this point, I can choose which company it's for, enter in an order number, or leave it blank. The system will generate one for me. I can choose from my product here, and at that point, I can enter in any additional properties if I know them, what the final size should be, who the project manager is, things like that. And then at that point, I can go ahead and just create the order here. And we'll see here, it'll be looking just like the other ones I had before that's waiting for artwork. So again, the process will be the same. I can just drop the artwork right into the window. So that's what it looks like for in terms of getting files into the system. So you can see it's definitely nothing more difficult than it was to upload a file via an FTP application or WeTransfer. But the big difference is that these files are already processing, which we'll go and we'll take a look at here in just a minute. So they've already been pre-flighting. They've already been, depending on what I've chosen, they're finishing options, they're creating proofs, they're sending out those proofs for approval. So all those things are happening while I'm talking to you. And so in the meantime, let's go ahead and talk about other options. So as I mentioned before, we can also connect to web to print systems. So there's obviously nothing to show you here in terms of creating the order because that would be fully automated. So what would happen is you would just see in the list here orders appearing automatically as they're coming in from the web to print storefront and doing their processes. Exactly the same thing if we connect to an MIS system. And the way we do that, we have two options. We can do that through XML, which is very simple, straightforward. The other system pushes us a simple configuration file and tells us what product it wants to have and what we need to do with the file. And the other option is via our open API, which allows, again, the other system to create new orders in tFLOW and so forth. So pretty simple and straightforward. So the important thing here, of course, being that this way of receiving files is already starting processes as opposed to what would normally happen in the scenario that the files would be sitting in a folder somewhere waiting for me to have time today after I got done with this webinar or after I got done with my day and be able to pick up those files and manage them manually. So let's go ahead and go back over to our presentation here. Bring up the point that I was talking about before. So if we now look at what automated pre-flighting and proofing is about, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So while I was talking, I had input a few files. So let's go ahead and see where we are. So if I look at my billboard, so you see this one here is waiting approval. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. I can go ahead and open it up. And here I'll have a preview. So you see it's built up the proof automatically. So what you're seeing here is part of our process when we call automated proofing. It's about taking the file and embedding all of the proof information into the file, placing the file into the proof layout. And in this layout, by the way, you can choose whatever format you'd like. So this is just one example, and these are the fields that we're using for this. We have in our specification, you can decide any number of fields that you'd like to display on here. And so let's go ahead and approve this, and we'll take a look at what the production file looks like. So on the one side, we have the proof. And so let's say this has been approved now. And now let's jump over to the production file and see what happened to the production file. So here we have, in this case, this is a billboard, so this is our finishing option. If you look, you'll see that our finishing profile has added in thumbnail, the job number, some other instructions about folding and things like that, the folding area. So that's what when we talk about being able to automate the process. This is already the production file waiting to be sent to production, while this here is the proof that the customer is receiving. And by the way, I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm getting emails for all of these different things here that I can choose how I want to get emails for to be able to approve. So at this point, our billboard's finished. Let's go ahead and take a look just so you can see a couple of other examples in terms of what's been going on behind the scenes while we've been talking. And so let me go ahead and open up now just to see the difference. Let's go ahead and take a look at the business card if it's been finished. So here we have the business card, and once again we can take a look at the cards. This would be the front of the cards, the back of the card. So we have a two-page document, two-page proof here. Let's go ahead and approve it. And in this particular case, the profile that I had chosen wasn't just to take the card. Actually, what I wanted to do was a step and repeat. So I have here my proof of the card, but the production file, when I send it into production, will actually be sending a step and repeat of the card. So again, what tFLOW did here when I uploaded is it did a step and repeat here. So now I have my layout ready, again, my front and my back side to send into my printer. So one other example here, just to check, so you can see kind of the difference. If I look at the table throw. So once again, if we go ahead and did I upload a table? Yeah, here we go. So table throw, we can embed in also the visual area like we're seeing here, as well as adding in the lines, which you can take out later for production. So that's just a quick example of the different types of what we call automated pre-flighting, automated proofing, and automated getting the file ready for production. All that's happening while I'm talking to you. So as most of you know, these files that are all ready to go here would have taken the operator minimum 20-25 minutes per file, which has been all done automatically by the system. So let's go ahead, and so I know we're starting to run out of time, jump over very quickly. So we have collaboration here. So again, rather than sending things back and forth via email, you can collaborate online. So in here, the customer, when they click on the email, they're able to go ahead and add in comments here directly. So if you're going to go into a file here and at that point open up the side panel, you can add in comments and go ahead and mark them up. Add in so comments as well as annotations in here, post messages. So all of those, that back and forth is happening through the system. It's available to all of your team members as opposed to sitting in somebody's inbox. And that's going to be visible to everybody as well up here in the notification center. So any comments that are being made are going to pop up in the notification center here as well. Okay, so getting down to the last couple of points, I just showed you some of the automated pre-press. So even though we're running out of time, you did get to see some of what that is about in terms of adding those finishing options to the files. And the last thing I want to show you here is the connection to backend. So any system that's going to be useful needs to be open, both connecting on the front end, as I mentioned before, with the MIS and web-to-print systems, but also on the back end to connect to your output systems. So I want to show you here is our tBot. And what this does is this publishes queues into tFLOW. So if we look over here, when I have a job, let's say I want to go ahead and improve this, and now I want to send it to production, the queues that I'm going to be able to see here are coming from my connected tBot. So this is how I can then choose where I want to send to, if I want to send to my different outputs, different queues that I have set up here. And that's tBot's job, is to be able to send those over. So how is that done? Essentially what you do here is you can set up queues. So let's go ahead and jump into this queue here. And we have, essentially it's a automated workflow in the actual download application. So once we pull the file down, you can set up a whole series of automation steps, like sending email and renaming the file and moving it and things like that. So this is a very simple one where we're downloading the file into Caldera, and in this case, when we export to Caldera, we're connecting to Nexio, so we can pull out the printers, the quick sets the printers are using, and then as the file comes down into this queue, it will generate the JDF that Nexio needs to automate how it needs to be printed. A couple other samples here. So for InfoStrip as well, we can generate the XML that InfoStrip needs to process the files. And if we click here on Zoomed, this will then connect to the Zune configuration, pull out all the material lists, publish those as queues, and then any files that are sent to the Zune Prep Center will again provide the needed XML file for the Zune cutting stations. So again, you'll see this list growing very quickly, but that gives you kind of an idea of what the whole process looks like. So it's very simple to get stuff in, get it approved. So you have all your automated pre-flighting proofing, file sent to production, getting download automatically through your tBot, and deposit into your different output systems with the needed JDF, XML, CSV files. So with that, I want to close. So I ran over, I think I didn't leave too much time for questions. So if any of you need to drop off, please do. So I originally scheduled the webinar for 20 minutes, and I will hold to that. So, but if there are any questions, please let us know. If not, as I mentioned before, we will be publishing this this video for you. And if you have any additional questions, please let us know. and our contact information. You can go to our website, which is tucanna.com, or if you'd like to email us, please send email to info@tucanna.com or sales@tucanna.com. So once again, thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. And for those that can stay on, there are a couple of questions. So let me go ahead and check those. So the first question here is regarding the business card. Will the system automatically add bleed? The answer is yes. So we have several ways to add bleed. So you can do a mirror bleed, you can do a pixel bleed, you can do a scale bleed. So you have different choices of bleeds that you'd like that you can choose from to add to the file. Next question here, what is the workflow for pre-flight errors? So it's a very, very extensive list that you can have checked for you. So I don't have any, I think, files in here that are failing. What I'd like to do is just so you can see what it looks like, I'm going to go ahead and choose here from my product type, one of these that should fail. So I'll go ahead and create a new job. I'm going to try to force a fail here with some samples that I know are missing fonts. So let's go ahead and drop that in here. And so while that's uploading, let's go ahead and address the next question. Where will the video be posted? You will get an email of the video, and it will be on our YouTube channel. So actually there is a Tucanna YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and type in, search for Tucanna, you'll see we have a channel. And you can also subscribe there to receive additional updates anytime we post new videos. Okay, so that's the looks like the end of the questions. What I'll do here too, just in case this takes a second, I'm going to go ahead and come over here to another instance we have, which I know I already have files that have failed pre-flight, and we can see what they look like. So here I have there are a few that are on hold. So when a file fails pre-flight, and again, there's no time today to go into the very long list of things you can set up to check for. When something fails, the file goes, rather than into a waiting approval state, it goes to on hold. And then you have here a pre-flight report, which tells you what the problems are with a badge, the number of errors that you have in it. And if you'd like to view what they are, you can download that, and actually the PDF itself will do a copy of that and show you in the file where those errors are. So you'll see here red boxes will be placed around the areas where the fonts are missing. Okay, so I think that's about it for the questions. So once again, thank you all for your time today, and hope we were able to give you just a quick idea of what tFLOW is capable of. Hope to hear from you all soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.